Imagine this. A divorce where you lose, well, everything, not just a relationship, but your peace of mind, maybe your savings, even your connection with your kids. What if all that devastation could be traced back to one avoidable mistake? A really human error. Today, we're taking a deep dive. We're looking into the forces that really unravel lives in divorce court. We'll expose those critical missteps and show you how to safeguard your future. So stay with us because, honestly, understanding these patterns, that's your first step to avoiding a catastrophe. Welcome to J&J's Divorce Talk.
Hi, join us as we analyze the latest in divorce battles, custody disputes, and family law. We look at everything from financial settlements to shifting family dynamics. We really try to break down the stories shaping relationships after divorce.
And today, we're undertaking a really crucial deep dive. We're uncovering the fundamental master mistakes, the big ones that can undermine everything you've built, and maybe more importantly, providing the blueprint for how you can avoid them entirely. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit because it's definitely more complex than just avoiding one single wrong move. We always hear about the one big mistake people make in divorce, right? But our sources suggest the real issue isn't one isolated action. It's something deeper, more foundational. What is the true catalyst for so many bad outcomes?
Well, what's really illuminating when you look at the data, and our analysis confirms this, is that focusing on a singular number one mistake, it often misses the actual root cause. It's not really a specific error like filling out a form wrong, although that happens. It's more a fundamental failure in approach. It's the inability, really, to build a firewall between raw, unmanaged emotional reactions and sound legal or financial strategy. So this isn't just an error. It's what we're calling a master error. It triggers a whole cascade of other devastating choices.
Wow. So for you, our listener, this means that almost every really terrible outcome we see, financial ruin, losing significant time with your kids, it can ultimately be traced back to that immediate emotional impulse, that gut reaction, overriding clear long-term strategic thinking. That's powerful.
Precisely. And this deep dive, we're going to deconstruct this master error across three really critical areas: emotional warfare, financial self-sabotage, and procedural negligence. We'll explore exactly how unmanaged emotion systematically poisons rational decision-making in each one.
Okay. Let's start with emotional warfare. It's divorce. It's no secret emotions run incredibly high. But our sources are pretty clear. When those powerful feelings dictate legal strategy, they don't just, complicate things. They become an engine of destruction. But here's a question. What if winning your divorce battle, fighting tooth and nail out of pure emotion, actually guarantees you lose the bigger war? The cost of fighting just out of spite, it can be absolutely staggering. We're about to reveal just how financially devastating this mindset truly is. All right, so the first pitfall our sources highlight, and this is often fueled by just an intense desire for payback, is what they call the scorched earth fallacy. This is where one party, feeling really deeply wronged, channels that powerful urge for revenge straight into the legal system. Their focus shifts, right? It's not about dissolving a partnership anymore. It's about winning, no matter the cost, or just inflicting maximum pain.
And this approach is just a trap, a really damaging one. It shows up as this obstinate refusal to compromise on anything, often leading to completely unreasonable demands, protracted fights, really expensive fights, over things that frankly have more sentimental value than actual financial worth. Every single negotiation turns into a battlefield. And the real tragedy, this combativeness, just exponentially escalates the legal fees. You're essentially paying lawyers with the very marital assets you're fighting over. It depletes everything.
The consequences are severe then, aren't they? We're talking long, draining, incredibly expensive battles. They just systematically deplete the wealth for both people. And what's more, a judge often sees this constant fighting as unreasonable. It damages your credibility, sometimes even leads to court-imposed penalties, right?
Absolutely. The short-term, really fleeting emotional hit you get from getting even, it's almost always traded for long-term financial devastation. And critically, it creates a toxic, often completely irreparable co-parenting relationship. It truly becomes a definitive lose-lose. Professionals often describe it as basically an emotional tantrum with crippling legal fees attached. It was a prime example of emotion just hijacking logic.
It's amazing how anger can blind people to that financial cliff right in front of them. Okay, so battling over assets is destructive, but what's the one mistake that family law professionals universally agree is the most egregious? The real point of no return in a divorce. That brings us to weaponizing the children.
Yeah.
This is widely seen as the most damaging mistake a parent can possibly make. In these awful situations, a parent's intense anger, the resentment, it just overrides their most basic protective instincts for their own child.
And this often shows up in really insidious ways. bad-mouthing the other parent, to the kids or where they can hear it, using the children as messengers for hostile stuff, deliberately interfering with court-ordered parenting time, or even subtly encouraging the kids to, like, sky or report on the other parent's life. Judges view this stuff with extreme prejudice. Extreme. Because it directly attacks court's primary mandate, uphold the best interests of the child above everything else.
So the court, in these cases, they don't see a parent who's justifiably angry. They see emotional dysregulation. They see a parent actively harming their child. And that gives the other side's lawyer concrete, undeniable evidence that you are the source of conflict, the source of instability, which is exactly what the court wants to stop.
Precisely. A judge is far, far more likely to give decision-making authority, primary custody even, to the parent who consistently shows calm, child-focused co-parenting. So the very attempt to gain leverage by dragging the kids in, it backfires completely. It often results in losing parental rights or getting significantly less parenting time. And beyond the legal stuff, the psychological damage to the children, it's profound, often irreparable. We see higher stress, anxiety, depression, lower school performance. It's a permanent scar traded for a temporary, misguided win.
Wow. Okay. Our next insight reveals a really common trap in the digital age. Your private thoughts. They're not nearly as private as you think, especially in divorce court. We'll expose how just one impulsive post can permanently sabotage your entire case, creating a devastating digital record against you. This takes us to trial by social media.
Yeah. In our world where we're always connected, self-sabotage is incredibly easy. That human need for validation, or just to vent, it can lead people to these angry rants online, sharing sensitive case details, or posting photos that directly contradict what you're arguing legally. There's this fundamental misunderstanding that, these communications are private, maybe because they're on Facebook to friends only or in a private message. But in litigation, deleted posts, private messages, angry texts, they are all discoverable evidence, every bit, and they become incredibly powerful weapons for the opposing lawyer. They use them to prove poor judgment, maybe emotional instability, or just a lack of respect for the whole process.
It's like leaving breadcrumbs for the opposition, isn't it? A post venting about your spouse. That immediately shows disrespect and inability to manage emotions. Or, like you said, photos from that expensive trip when you're claiming you can't afford support. That undermines everything.
Absolutely. This evidence creates a huge credibility trap in court. You're then forced to either admit you showed poor judgment, or worse, lie under oath. Both of those destroy your standing with the judge. The court is left with this lasting impression: impulsive, indiscreet, emotionally uncontrolled. It makes it so much harder for your own attorney to effectively argue your case.
It really is a minefield out there. Okay, now, for many people, one of the first instincts when divorce seems inevitable is just leave. Get out of the marital home. But could simply moving out actually seal your fate in a custody battle, or badly hurt your financial future? The answer might surprise you. It's a blunder too many people make. This brings us to the unforced error of vacating the marital home. This is consistently one of the most significant and, common tactical mistakes made early on, often driven by that understandable emotional desire to just escape the stress, the conflict, or simply start fresh.
The main danger, especially if there are children involved, is that you inadvertently create a new status quo. Family courts prioritize stability for kids above almost everything else. So when one parent just moves out unilaterally, leaving the kids with the other parent, they've effectively volunteered, in the court size anyway, for the role of the non-custodial parent, at least for the time being.
And once that temporary arrangement gets formalized by a court order, like a temporary custody order, it often becomes the baseline for the whole rest of the case. Changing it later, you have to prove a substantial change in circumstances. That's a much higher legal hurdle to clear down the road. Much harder.
And the financial hit can be equally severe. The spouse who leaves might be ordered to keep paying the mortgage, the utilities, other bills on the house they don't even live in anymore, while also paying for their new place. This is called pendente lit support paid while the case is ongoing. Plus, it accidentally gives huge leverage to the spouse still in the house. They're often less motivated to negotiate quickly. It's a real double whammy, emotionally and financially.
Okay, this is where it gets really, really impactful. Our emotions aren't just messing with our relationships and our credibility in court. They're actively destroying our financial futures. Next up, we reveal what many consider the cardinal sin of divorce: hiding assets. We are talking about actions so illegal, so destructive, they can cost you absolutely everything and maybe even land you in jail. This is the cardinal sin: concealing, dissipating, and undervaluing assets. Financial dishonesty in a divorce. It's probably the most flagrant mistake and the one punished most severely. Often it comes from fear or spite or just this misplaced sense of entitlement, like, this money is mine.
The legal system, it operates on a fundamental principle: full financial disclosure, period. Any attempt to get around this, transferring assets to friends, creating fake debts, underreporting income, or wasteful spending, reckless spending on affairs, gambling, sudden extravagant purchases, it's a direct attack on the court's process.
And it's a really high-risk, low-reward gamble, isn't it? Because the legal tools for discovery, subpoenas, interrogatories, hiring forensic accountants, they almost always uncover these schemes. It's rarely a secret that stays hidden for long.
And when the deception is revealed, the consequences are truly draconian. Immediate, complete loss of credibility with the judge. The court often awards 100% of that hidden asset to the other spouse. They might order the deceiving party to pay the innocent spouse's legal fees. And in really bad cases, yes, even criminal charges for perjury and fraud. And critically, there's often no statute of limitations on setting aside a divorce settlement if it was based on fraud. So this could come back to bite you years, even decades later.
That dream house you're fighting so hard for, it might actually turn into your biggest financial nightmare. We're about to reveal a common winner's curse that leaves many people house poor, struggling for years after the divorce papers are signed. This leads us to the winner's curse, the Pyrrhic victory of keeping the house. That emotional attachment to the marital home, it's incredibly powerful. It often drives people to fight for it at all costs. They see it as stability, maybe continuity for the kids, or just a symbolic win over their ex.
This decision is frequently driven by what psychologists call the affect heuristic. Basically, strong feelings about the house override a rational financial look at things. The critical point here is that equity in a house, it isn't liquid cash, it's tied up. So to secure the house, a spouse often has to trade away their interest in other, more liquid assets like retirement accounts or investment portfolios.
Right, so you're left with this big, illiquid asset that's really expensive to maintain on your own. All the hidden costs, the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, just routine maintenance, let alone unexpected repairs, they can quickly overwhelm a single income. That leads directly to being house poor. You have the house, but no cash flow.
Exactly. And often, the long-term tax implications are completely ignored. Capital gains tax liability when you eventually sell. That can significantly reduce the net value you thought you were getting.
Yeah.
A truly logical, dispassionate analysis looking at fair market value, the remaining mortgage, monthly carrying costs, the net liquid value after a potential sale that's absolutely essential to avoid this trap.
Yeah.
It's about seeing the house for what it is financially, not just what it represents emotionally.
Okay, question. Are you potentially walking into the most critical financial negotiation of your life completely blind? Without this next crucial step, you could be setting yourself up for really profound, long-term economic ruin. This is navigating blind entering negotiations without a financial map. Rushing into settlement talks often because you're just emotionally exhausted, you want to overnight, but doing it without a thorough financial inventory, that is an alarmingly common error.
Look, for most people, divorce is the single biggest financial transaction they will ever make. Full stop. Trying to negotiate that without a complete, accurate marital balance sheet. It's like trying to sell a business without even looking at its financial statements. It makes no sense. It requires painstaking work gathering every bank statement, tax return, property deed, loan document, income verification, everything.
Because without that complete, unbiased financial picture, it's practically impossible to know what a truly fair and equitable settlement even looks like. You might unknowingly take on hidden debts your spouse ran up. You might accept inaccurate values for assets, or agree to a division that looks equal on paper, maybe 50-50, but is grossly inequitable once you factor in taxes or liquidity.
These hasty agreements, the ones made under immense emotional stress, they are a primary source of deep, long-term financial regret. Our sources really emphasize that having an essential financial disclosure checklist covering all assets, liabilities, income, expenses, it's not just a suggestion. It's the critical foundation to make sure you're actually prepared for those negotiations.
So what do you think is the single biggest financial blunder people make when they enter these really high-stakes divorce talks? Let us know. And just wait until you hear about the ticking time bombs hidden in your retirement accounts and tax liabilities. One simple oversight in these really complex areas can literally wipe out decades of your hard-earned savings. This brings us to the ticking time bombs, retirement accounts, and tax liabilities. Okay, these are two of the most financially complex and, frequently misunderstood areas in a divorce. Emotional exhaustion leads so many people to just treat all dollars as the same, ignoring the really intricate rules that govern these specific accounts.
Let's break that down a bit. First, retirement accounts, 401ks, 403bs, pensions, they cannot be divided just by saying so in the divorce decree. It's not enough. They require a specific, separate court order. It's called a Qualified Domestic Relations Order, or QDRO for short. Without a properly drafted and executed QDRO, any attempt to transfer those funds will trigger massive early withdrawal penalties and immediate income taxes for the person receiving them. It can wipe out a huge chunk of the account's value. This is because of complex federal laws, like ERISA, that govern these plans.
Wow. So just believing the divorce decree itself is enough for those transfers. That's one of the costliest errors we see, especially in, do-it-yourself divorces where people don't get proper advice.
Absolutely. And second, equally critical. Not all assets are equal from a tax perspective. $1 of equity in your house is not the same as $1 in a taxable brokerage account or $1 in a pre-tax 401k. So accepting, say, a $500,000 brokerage account in exchange for a $500,000 bank account might seem fair on the surface, but that brokerage account comes with embedded capital gains tax liability when you sell the stocks. That reduces its actual net value to you. Similarly, pre-tax retirement accounts. They're taxed as ordinary income when you withdraw the money later. Ignoring these hidden, embedded tax liabilities leads to settlements that look equitable but are in fact profoundly unequal. You end up with massive unexpected tax bills years down the line.
All right, we're moving now into our final domain of destruction, procedural negligence. The legal system, well, it operates with complex rules, procedures, strict deadlines. Failing to take this seriously, often because of emotional avoidance, maybe ego, thinking you know better, that can be just as destructive as any financial or emotional mistake. For example, are you thinking, maybe I can save a few bucks by representing myself in court? Be careful. This false economy can be a fast track to losing your kids, your assets, your future. Don't make this catastrophic mistake. Here's why. This is the high cost of saving money. Why self-representation is a false economy. A lot of people are tempted, understandably, to represent themselves proceed pro se, as lawyers say, to save on attorney fees, especially if they think, maybe optimistically, that their divorce will be amicable, straightforward.
However, the money you think you're saving on those attorney fees, it's often completely dwarfed by the value of assets, or the amount of support, or even the parental rights you unknowingly give up or forfeit, simply because you lack the legal knowledge. Family law is highly specialized. It has intricate procedural rules, and they vary significantly from state to state, even county to county.
And it's so crucial to understand this. Pro se litigants, people representing themselves, they are held to the exact same legal standard as experienced attorneys. But they lack the training, so they make critical errors, submitting the wrong documents, missing crucial court deadlines, improperly serving papers on the other side, misunderstanding fundamental rules about what evidence is even allowed. These aren't small oopsies. They can have irreversible consequences for your case.
Furthermore, self-represented folks often just don't fully understand their substantive legal rights. How do you conduct proper discovery to find hidden assets? How do you value a complex business? What are you actually entitled to from retirement benefits? Those generic online divorce forms, they frequently miss crucial provisions like ensuring a QDRO is prepared or including specific clauses about modifying alimony later if circumstances change. Our sources highlight this really unfortunate case of a man who, representing himself, agreed to non-modifiable lifetime alimony, a catastrophic, irreversible error that dramatically limited his financial future. Just devastating.
Okay, imagine this scenario. Your own lawyer, the person fighting for you, being completely blindsided in court by secrets you deliberately kept from them. We're about to expose why lying to your own advocate is arguably the ultimate act of self-sabotage within the legal system. This leads us to sabotaging your own advocate, the folly of lying to your lawyer. The attorney-client relationship, it's fundamentally built on absolute trust, complete honesty. So withholding crucial information from your lawyer, maybe out of embarrassment or fear or some misguided attempt to control the narrative and make yourself look better, that is a catastrophic and surprisingly common mistake.
Your attorney builds their entire legal strategy based on the facts you give them. That's the foundation. So when you withhold damaging information, you basically guarantee it will be revealed at the absolute worst possible moment, usually in open court, dramatically unveiled by the opposing counsel, when your attorney is completely unprepared. This trial by ambush blindsides your legal team. It makes both you and your lawyer look dishonest or at least incompetent in front of the judge.
And the fallout is immediate. It's profound. Your credibility with the court, shattered, gone. The judge will then doubt everything else you claim, whether it's about your finances, your parenting abilities, anything. And critically, the trust between you and your attorney is eroded. That makes effective representation almost impossible from that point on.
The attempt to hide just one negative fact invariably ends up poisoning the entire case. It's truly an act of self-sabotage. It often causes irreparable harm to your legal standing and your ultimate outcome. It really just highlights that complete honesty with your lawyer, no matter how uncomfortable it feels, is the only sustainable strategy.
In your experience, what's the single most difficult truth you find for a client to share with their divorce attorney? And how does holding that back tend to impact the case? And finally, let's consider this. Defying a judge. This isn't just having a dispute with your ex anymore. This is a direct challenge to the authority of the court itself. And it comes with immediate, severe, and often irreversible consequences. This is defying the court, the immediate consequences of violating orders. During a divorce, judges issue temporary court orders all the time. They cover conduct, right? Custody schedules, support payments, how you communicate, even prohibitions on selling assets. A critical mistake, one carrying immense risk, is viewing these orders as like mere suggestions or guidelines you can maybe bend a little.
Violating a court order is fundamentally seen as an act of emotional defiance. It shows a profound lack of respect, not just for the other party, but for the legal system itself and for the judge's direct authority. The judge interprets this not as a minor slip-up, but as a direct challenge to the court, and judges do not take challenges to their authority lightly, at all.
Right. So when a motion for contempt of court gets filed against you, the only real question the judge is going to ask is, did you follow my order, yes or no? If the answer is no, regardless of your personal justifications or how frustrated you were, the judge's trust in you is immediately and often permanently lost.
And the penalties for contempt, they can be severe. They can be far-reaching. We're talking significant financial sanctions, being ordered to pay the other side's attorney's fees for having to bring the motion, a reduction in your custody time. And yes, in the most serious or repeated cases, even jail time is possible. A single act of defiance can fundamentally undermine your entire position and pretty much guarantee a worse final outcome. It's a risk that is almost never, ever worth taking.
Okay. So we've walked through this anatomy of destruction, haven't we? Uncovering how these unmanaged emotions create this cascade, this domino effect of devastating mistakes. But what's the antidote? How do you escape this cycle? How do you protect your future through what is, let's face it, undoubtedly one of life's most challenging experiences?
The core lesson, I think, is crystal clear. The greatest mistake is truly failing to build and maintain that firewall between the raw, unmanaged emotion and the critical legal and financial decision-making. The antidote isn't about suppressing your feelings completely. That's not realistic, probably not even healthy. It's more about cultivating emotional intelligence and applying a disciplined, strategic approach. This strategy, our sources consistently confirm, rests on three really essential pillars.
Okay, pillar one, assemble a professional team. This sounds like your absolute cornerstone for insulating that strategy from raw emotion. It absolutely is. It comprehensively includes, first, a competent family law attorney. They're your primary strategic buffer, your guide through the legal maze. Second, you really need a financial expert. Someone like a certified divorce financial analyst, a CDFA, or maybe a forensic accountant. They help you thoroughly understand the marital estate, all the numbers, and they can model the long-term consequences of different settlement options, so you see the future impact. And crucially, often overlooked, is a therapist or a divorce coach. They are invaluable for processing the emotional trauma, providing a safe space for those feelings without letting them contaminate your vital legal and financial decisions. Keep those streams separate.
Makes sense. Okay, pillar two, practice strategic patience. That urge to just rush through it, get it over with because of the emotional exhaustion or just wanting closure, it's incredibly intense. But you're saying a successful divorce outcome, it's more like a marathon, not a sprint. That's a great way to put it. It means actively resisting that powerful temptation to accept quick settlements that might feel like relief now, but are ultimately unfavorable in the long run. You have to take the time required for thorough financial discovery. Don't skip that. Carefully analyze all the assets and liabilities. Thoughtfully consider the long-term implications of every custody arrangement. Don't just think about next week. And allow your professional legal team the time they need to negotiate from a position of strength, armed with full information. Hasty decisions made under duress in divorce, almost always regrettable, and often completely irreversible.
All right, and finally, pillar three. Maintain a future focus. This sounds like maybe the most powerful mental and emotional shift you can actually make.
I believe it is. It means consciously, actively redirecting your focus. Move it away from past grievances, resentment, blame, which is hard, I know, and firmly towards your future goals, your future well-being. Filter every single decision you face, big or small, through two critical questions. How will this specific action affect my long-term financial security? And how will this action genuinely serve the best interests of my children? Not my interests, not my need to win, but theirs. This clear, objective lens, it helps clarify priorities. It helps you make tough choices. And it lays the essential foundation for building a stable, hopefully thriving post-divorce life.
So, by understanding these destructive patterns we've talked about and actively implementing this robust three-pillar strategy, you can navigate the perilous landscape of divorce not just to survive, but to actually emerge with your dignity, your finances, and your future intact. What about this unified strategy we've laid out? What part of it sparks the most resonance with you as you think about your own experiences or maybe your concerns about divorce? Okay, final thought. Considering everything we've discussed today, all the emotional traps, the financial blunders, the procedural pitfalls, what is one immediate non-emotional step you can commit to taking, maybe this week, to protect your future if you're facing or even just anticipating divorce? Just one concrete step. Think about it and let that thought guide you forward. You've been listening to J&J's Divorce Talk, where we analyze the latest in divorce battles, custody disputes, and family law. We'll catch you next time.